The heart of the emerald forest pulsed with a life of its own. Sunlight, filtered through emerald canopies, dappled the forest floor, illuminating a tapestry of ferns, mosses, and wildflowers. Deep within this verdant embrace, nestled amongst whispering pines and babbling brooks, lay the quaint village of Oakhaven. Time seemed to move at a different pace here, a gentle rhythm dictated by the rising and setting of the sun, the changing of the seasons, the ebb and flow of life in the forest. Amidst the rustic charm and the gentle rhythm of village life resided a young man named Ravi. He was a figure woven into the very fabric of Oakhaven. His laughter, a warm, resonant sound, was as familiar to the villagers as the chirping of birds in the morning. He was a skilled craftsman, his hands imbued with the magic of the forest, capable of transforming rough-hewn logs into elegant furniture and intricate sculptures that seemed to breathe with the life of the trees. His workshop, nestled at the edge of the village, was a haven of creativity, the air thick with the scent of cedar and pine. The rhythmic thud of his chisel, a comforting backdrop to the village's gentle hum. Yet, beneath this veneer of contentment, a tempest raged within his mind. Ravi carried a secret burden, a heavy cloak of self-doubt that clung to him like a shroud. Negative thoughts, like venomous vipers, slithered through the recesses of his consciousness, whispering doubts, fears, and insecurities. The whispers were incessant, a constant, insidious undercurrent that threatened to drown out the joy of living. Every stroke of his chisel, each delicate curve of his creations, was met with the venomous hiss of not good enough. The whispers were insidious, a constant, insidious undercurrent that threatened to drown out the joy of living. The jovial laughter of children playing in the meadow, a symphony of youthful exuberance that should have brought him joy, instead became a cruel mockery, each joyous sound a stark reminder of his own perceived inadequacies. He would catch himself studying the carefree children, their unburdened laughter a painful contrast to the heavy weight that pressed down upon his own spirit. He often found himself retreating to the solitude of the forest, seeking solace in the rustling leaves and the murmur of the brook, hoping to escape the relentless barrage of negativity within his own mind. Even the loving praise of his mother, a beacon of warmth in his life, was tainted by the insidious whisper, "She's just being kind. You'll never truly succeed." His mother, a woman whose eyes held the wisdom of 1,000 sunsets, would often praise his work, her voice filled with pride. "Such artistry, my son," she would say, her eyes twinkling. "You have a gift." But the whispers would immediately follow, their venomous sting eroding her praise, turning it into a hollow echo. Ravi felt trapped, his mind a cage, the negative thoughts its iron bars. He longed to break free, to experience the joy he witnessed in others, the effortless grace with which they navigated the world. He yearned to shed the heavy cloak of self-doubt that clung to him, to embrace the lightness of being, the freedom of a spirit unburdened by the tyranny of negative thoughts. The whispers were not merely words, they were a suffocating presence, a constant undercurrent of anxiety that permeated every aspect of his life. He would wake up in the morning, the whispers already there, a venomous chorus in the quiet of his mind. They would accompany him throughout the day, a persistent shadow that followed him everywhere he went. He would find himself analyzing every conversation, every interaction, searching for signs of disapproval, of judgment, convinced that everyone was secretly mocking him, that his perceived inadequacies were an open secret. The whispers even seeped into his dreams, transforming peaceful slumber into a nightmare. He would dream of failing, of his creations being ridiculed, of being cast out from the village, a solitary figure wandering aimlessly through the desolate wilderness. He would wake up drenched in sweat, his heart pounding, the lingering taste of fear still clinging to his tongue. The fear of failure was a constant companion, a lurking predator that threatened to consume him. He would often avoid social gatherings, preferring the solitude of his workshop, where he could lose himself in his work, where the whispers, though still present, were somewhat muted by the rhythmic thud of his chisel. But even in the solitude of his workshop, the whispers found ways to infiltrate. As he meticulously carved a delicate bird from a piece of wood, the whispers would taunt him. "Your hands are clumsy. Your work is insignificant. You will never achieve true mastery." He would struggle to maintain his focus, his hands trembling, the delicate piece of wood slipping from his grasp. The joy he once found in his craft, the sense of fulfillment that came with creating something beautiful, was slowly being eroded by the relentless assault of negative thoughts. He felt like a ship adrift at sea, battered by a relentless storm, his compass broken, his destination lost. Ravi, captivated by the monk's words, felt a spark of hope ignite within him. For the first time in a long time, a sliver of possibility pierced through the gloom that had settled over his mind. Master Dhira's words resonated deeply, striking a chord within him. He had always felt like a ship tossed about in a raging sea, his mind a tempestuous ocean where negative thoughts crashed against the shores of his consciousness, threatening to capsize him entirely. The monk's words, though simple, offered a glimmer of understanding. Ravi had always viewed his negative thoughts as external forces, as malevolent entities that sought to torment him. But Master Dhira's words suggested a different perspective. These thoughts, the monk implied, were not external enemies, but rather reflections of his own internal turmoil, projections of his own fears and insecurities. The idea that he held the key to his own suffering was both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it meant that he was responsible for the chaos within his own mind. Liberating because it meant that he had the power to change it. As Master Dhira continued to speak, Ravi felt a growing sense of urgency. He yearned to understand more, to learn how to navigate the tempestuous sea of his mind, to find a way to calm the raging waves. He longed to break free from the prison of his own negativity, to experience the joy and freedom he saw in others, to live a life unburdened by the constant barrage of self-doubt. He watched Master Dhira with rapt attention, his eyes drawn to the monk's serene demeanor, his face a mask of tranquility. The monk exuded a sense of inner peace that seemed to radiate outward, calming the agitated minds of those who gathered around him. Ravi yearned to achieve that same inner peace, to find a way to still the tempest within his own mind. That evening, he sought out Master Dhira, his heart heavy with the weight of his torment. He approached the monk with a mixture of trepidation and hope, his voice trembling slightly as he spoke. "Master," he pleaded, "my mind is a battlefield, a constant struggle against these insidious thoughts. They tell me I am unworthy, a failure destined to remain forever in the shadows. Please, guide me, show me how to find peace." Master Dhira, sensing the sincerity of Ravi's plea, extended a hand of compassion. His gaze, though gentle, held a depth of wisdom that seemed to penetrate Ravi's soul. "The battle with negative thoughts, Ravi," he said, his voice calm and reassuring, "is not waged on the battlefield of outward conflict. It is a quiet war, fought within the chambers of your own being. It is not about vanquishing the thoughts, but rather learning to observe them, to understand their fleeting nature." Ravi, captivated by the monk's words, felt a spark of hope ignite within him. For the first time in a long time, a sliver of possibility pierced through the gloom that had settled over his mind. Master Dhira's words resonated deeply, striking a chord within him. He had always felt like a ship tossed about in a raging sea, his mind a tempestuous ocean where negative thoughts crashed against the shores of his consciousness, threatening to capsize him entirely. The monk's words, though simple, offered a glimmer of understanding. Ravi had always viewed his negative thoughts as external forces, as malevolent entities that sought to torment him. But Master Dhira's words suggested a different perspective. These thoughts, the monk implied, were not external enemies, but rather reflections of his own internal turmoil, projections of his own fears and insecurities. The idea that he held the key to his own suffering was both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it meant that he was responsible for the chaos within his own mind. Liberating because it meant that he had the power to change it. As Master Dhira continued to speak, Ravi felt a growing sense of urgency. He yearned to understand more, to learn how to navigate the tempestuous sea of his mind, to find a way to calm the raging waves. He longed to break free from the prison of his own negativity, to experience the joy and freedom he saw in others, to live a life unburdened by the constant barrage of self-doubt. He watched Master Dhira with rapt attention, his eyes drawn to the monk's serene demeanor, his face a mask of tranquility. The monk exuded a sense of inner peace that seemed to radiate outward, calming the agitated minds of those who gathered around him. Ravi yearned to achieve that same inner peace, to find a way to still the tempest within his own mind. That evening he sought out Master Dhira, his heart heavy with the weight of his torment. He approached the monk with a mixture of trepidation and hope, his voice trembling slightly as he spoke. "Master," he pleaded, "my mind is a battlefield, a constant struggle against these insidious thoughts. They tell me I am unworthy, a failure destined to remain forever in the shadows. Please, guide me, show me how to find peace." Master Dhira, sensing the sincerity of Ravi's plea, extended a hand of compassion. His gaze, though gentle, held a depth of wisdom that seemed to penetrate Ravi's soul. "The battle with negative thoughts, Ravi," he said, his voice calm and reassuring, "is not waged on the battlefield of outward conflict. It is a quiet war, fought within the chambers of your own being. It is not about vanquishing the thoughts, but rather learning to observe them, to understand their fleeting nature." Master Dhira paused, his gaze unwavering. "Imagine," he continued, "your mind as a vast and turbulent ocean. The thoughts, these waves of negativity, crash against the shores of your consciousness, threatening to engulf you. But you, Ravi, are not the waves. You are the observer, the stillness beneath the surface. You can watch the waves rise and fall, observe their power, their beauty, without being swept away by them." Ravi felt a sense of intrigue. This was a new perspective, a different way of looking at his own mind. He had always tried to fight the waves, to suppress them, to push them away. But Master Dhira was suggesting a different approach, a more passive, more observant approach. "Observe them without judgment," Master Dhira continued, his voice a gentle murmur. "Acknowledge their presence, but do not engage with them. Do not feed them with your attention. Let them rise, let them crash, and then let them subside. You will find that their power diminishes with each passing wave." Ravi listened intently, his mind grappling with this new concept. It seemed counterintuitive. Shouldn't he fight against these negative thoughts, resist their influence? But Master Dhira's words resonated with a quiet wisdom, a profound sense of inner peace. "It is not about controlling the thoughts, Ravi," Master Dhira explained, "but about controlling your response to them. You cannot stop the waves from crashing, but you can learn to ride them, to navigate through the turbulence with grace and equanimity." Ravi felt a sense of hope stir within him. Perhaps, just perhaps, Master Dhira's guidance could offer him a way out of the darkness, a way to find peace within the tempestuous sea of his own mind. And so began Ravi's journey of self-discovery, a journey guided by the wisdom of Master Dhira. He returned to his workshop that evening, his mind buzzing with the monk's words. The familiar weight of negativity still lingered, but it felt lighter somehow, as if the monk had lifted a corner of the heavy cloak that had shrouded him for so long. He sat down at his workbench, the familiar scent of cedar and pine filling his senses. He picked up a piece of wood, his fingers tracing the smooth, cool surface. As he worked, he tried to apply Master Dhira's teachings. He observed his thoughts as they arose, the familiar whispers of self-doubt creeping into his consciousness. "Not good enough," they hissed. "You will never be as skilled as your father." He acknowledged the thoughts, noting their presence without judgment, like a detached observer watching a storm gather on the horizon. He continued to work, his focus returning to the task at hand. The rhythmic thud of his chisel against the wood, a calming counterpoint to the internal storm. He found that as he observed his thoughts without engaging with them, their intensity diminished. They were still there, but they no longer held the same power over him. They were like fleeting shadows, passing across the landscape of his mind, leaving no lasting trace. For the first time in a long time, Ravi found himself enjoying his work again. He felt a sense of flow, a sense of being connected to something larger than himself. He was no longer fighting against the current, but rather moving with it, riding the waves of creativity with a newfound grace and ease. That night, as he lay in bed, the whispers returned, but they were softer now, less insistent. He observed them with a newfound detachment, acknowledging their presence without fear. He imagined himself as a calm observer, watching the waves crash against the shore, their power diminishing as they receded back into the ocean. And as he drifted off to sleep, a sense of peace settled over him, a peace he had not experienced in years. He knew this was just the beginning, that the journey would be long and challenging, but he also knew that he was no longer alone. He had found a guide, a mentor, a beacon of light in the darkness. And with Master Dhira's guidance, he believed he could finally break free from the shackles of his own negativity and embrace the joy and freedom that had eluded him for so long. Under the shade of a majestic banyan tree at the edge of the village, Master Dhira invited Ravi to sit. The ancient tree, its gnarled roots reaching deep into the earth, provided a sanctuary of tranquility. Sunlight filtered through the dense canopy of leaves, dappling the ground with shifting patterns of light and shadow. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, creating a soothing rhythmic sound. Master Dhira, his gaze serene and unwavering, gestured towards the ground. "Sit, Ravi," he invited, his voice a low, resonant hum that seemed to harmonize with the sounds of the forest. Ravi, hesitant yet eager, lowered himself onto the soft earth, the rough bark of the tree root pressing against his back. "Close your eyes, my son," Master Dhira instructed, "and simply observe. Let the thoughts arise. Let them flow like a river. Do not resist. Do not judge. Watch them come and go like clouds drifting across the vast expanse of the sky." Ravi obeyed, though his mind, accustomed to the tyranny of negative thoughts, resisted. The whispers began anew, louder now, more insistent. "This is futile, a waste of time. You'll never find peace." The words echoed in his mind, a relentless drumbeat that threatened to drown out Master Dhira's instructions. Ravi felt a surge of anxiety, his breath quickening. He clenched his fists, the muscles in his jaw tightening. This was harder than he had anticipated. He had expected to find peace under the shade of the banyan tree, but instead the storm within his mind seemed to intensify. Master Dhira, as if sensing the turmoil within Ravi, remained silent. His presence, however, was a calming anchor. Ravi felt a strange sense of comfort in the monk's stillness, his unwavering gaze seemingly penetrating the chaos within Ravi's mind. Slowly, reluctantly, Ravi began to soften his grip, to relax his muscles. He focused on his breath, inhaling deeply, then slowly exhaling, trying to find a rhythm that would counter the chaotic rhythm of his thoughts. The whispers continued, but their intensity began to diminish slightly. Ravi noticed that there were spaces between the thoughts, brief moments of quietude where he could connect with the present moment, with the sounds of the forest, with the gentle rhythm of his own breath. He began to understand what Master Dhira meant. He was not supposed to fight the thoughts, to suppress them, to try to make them disappear. He was simply supposed to observe them, to witness their fleeting nature, to acknowledge their presence without engaging with them. Slowly, reluctantly, Ravi began to observe. He watched as the thoughts arose, each one a fleeting burst of energy, a momentary disturbance on the surface of his consciousness. A thought would appear, linger for a brief instant, then dissolve, replaced by another and another, an endless chaotic dance. It was like watching a swarm of fireflies flitting through the darkness, each one a brief flash of light, then disappearing into the night. He noticed the way each thought carried its own unique energy, some sharp and jagged, others soft and meandering. Some were like sudden storms, crashing against the shores of his awareness, while others were like gentle breezes, barely ruffling the surface. He watched as they arose and fell, their intensity waxing and waning, their duration fleeting and unpredictable. "Observe, Ravi," Master Dhira's voice, soft as the rustling of leaves, broke the silence. The sound of the monk's voice, calm and soothing, seemed to anchor him, to provide a counterpoint to the internal chaos. "Observe the impermanence of these thoughts. They are like fireflies, illuminating the darkness briefly before fading into oblivion. They have no substance, no lasting power. They are merely fleeting reflections of your own mind." Ravi, witnessing the ephemeral nature of his thoughts, felt a sense of wonder. For the first time, he realized that his thoughts were not a constant, unwavering truth, but rather fleeting shadows, devoid of any inherent power. They were like ripples on the surface of a pond, appearing and disappearing without a trace. He had always believed that his thoughts defined him, that they were a reflection of his true self. But now, he began to see them differently. They were not the solid ground beneath his feet, but rather shifting sands, constantly changing, constantly moving. A profound sense of detachment began to arise within him. He was no longer identified with his thoughts. He was the observer, the witness, the silent presence that watched the thoughts come and go without judgment, without attachment. Master Dhira paused, a serene smile playing on his lips. He noticed the intensity in Ravi's gaze, the eagerness with which the young man awaited his words. "Within each of us," he began, his voice a gentle murmur, "dwells a pair of wolves, eternally locked in a silent struggle." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. Ravi leaned forward, intrigued, his eyes wide with anticipation. "One wolf," Master Dhira continued, "is kind, compassionate, and filled with hope. It embodies love, joy, peace, and gratitude. It sees the beauty in all things, the good in every person. It fosters empathy, forgiveness, and understanding." He paused again, allowing Ravi to absorb the description. Then his voice shifted slightly, a hint of gravity entering his tone. "The other wolf," he continued, "is cruel, angry, and consumed by doubt. It embodies fear, anger, envy, and greed. It breeds negativity, breeds suspicion, and fosters feelings of inadequacy and worthlessness." Ravi leaned forward, captivated. "Which wolf prevails, Master?" he inquired, his voice filled with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. Master Dhira regarded him with a knowing smile. "The one you feed," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "When you dwell on negativity, when you allow doubt to consume you, when you succumb to anger and resentment, you are nourishing the cruel wolf, strengthening its grip. You are providing it with the fuel it needs to grow and thrive." He paused, allowing the profound implications of his words to sink in. "But when you cultivate gratitude, when you focus on the kindness and beauty that surrounds you, When you choose to see the good in others, you feed the kind wolf. You nourish its strength, its compassion, its wisdom. Ravi felt a profound shift within him. The parable resonated deeply, illuminating a new understanding of his inner struggles. He had been feeding the cruel wolf, unknowingly, unwittingly. He had allowed his mind to be consumed by negativity, by doubt, by fear. He had been nurturing the very forces that were keeping him trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and unhappiness. Master Dhira then presented Ravi with a simple journal, its leather cover worn smooth with age. "This journal," he said, "will be your companion on this journey." He handed it to Ravi, the leather cool and smooth beneath his fingers. "Each morning," he instructed, "write down 3 things for which you are grateful. Focus your attention on the positive aspects of your life, on the blessings that abound. Do not seek the grand or the extraordinary. Find gratitude in the ordinary, in the beauty of a sunrise, the warmth of a smile, the simple act of breathing." Ravi, initially skeptical, began the practice. The journal, a tangible reminder of his commitment, lay open on his bedside table each morning. At first, the task felt forced, artificial. He struggled to find 3 things to be grateful for, his mind defaulting to the familiar patterns of negativity. But as the days passed, he began to notice a subtle shift within him. He found himself searching for the good in the ordinary, the beauty in the mundane. He was grateful for the warmth of the sun on his skin, the sweet melody of the birdsong, the loving smile of his mother, the comforting aroma of her cooking. He was grateful for the sturdy roof over his head, the soft earth beneath his feet, the simple act of breathing. He began to appreciate the intricate details of the world around him, the delicate veins on a leaf, the intricate patterns in the clouds, the playful dance of a butterfly. He found himself drawn to the beauty of the natural world, the serenity of the forest, the tranquility of the river. As he continued to cultivate gratitude, he noticed a subtle shift within him. The constant barrage of negative thoughts, once a relentless torrent, began to subside, their intensity diminished. The cruel wolf, starved of attention, began to grow weaker, its snarls and growls becoming less frequent, less forceful. The kind wolf, nurtured by gratitude, began to gain strength, its presence more pronounced, its influence more profound. Ravi felt a sense of lightness, a sense of liberation, as the weight of negativity began to lift. He was starting to see the world through a different lens, a lens of appreciation, of gratitude, of joy. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long ethereal shadows across the forest floor, Master Dhira led Ravi to a hidden oasis, a serene pond nestled deep within the heart of the emerald forest. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and pine needles, the sounds of the forest gradually fading as the twilight deepened. They followed a narrow, winding path, the sunlight filtering through the dense canopy of trees, creating a dappled pattern on the forest floor. Finally, they emerged into a small clearing, where a small, crescent-shaped pond lay nestled amidst a grove of ancient oaks. The surface of the pond was still, reflecting the ethereal glow of the moon like a mirror. Fireflies, like tiny luminous stars, danced above the water, casting flickering reflections on the surface. "This pond, Ravi," Master Dhira explained, his voice a low, gentle murmur, "is a reflection of your mind. When its surface is undisturbed, it reflects the truth with perfect clarity. It mirrors the serenity of the night, the tranquility of the forest." He paused, allowing the image to sink in. Ravi, mesmerized by the serene beauty of the pond, felt a sense of peace wash over him. He could almost feel the tranquility of the pond mirroring the tranquility within his own being, a rare and precious moment of calm amidst the constant churn of his thoughts. But when it is disturbed, Master Dhira continued, the reflection becomes distorted, a chaotic jumble of images. He gently tossed a stone into the pond. The tranquil surface was shattered, ripples spreading outward, obscuring the moon's reflection. The fireflies, startled by the disturbance, scattered, their luminous dance broken. "Your mind is similar," Master Dhira continued, his voice grave. "Negative thoughts are like the stones you cast upon the water, creating ripples of disturbance. They disrupt the stillness, preventing you from seeing the true reflection of your being. They create chaos, obscuring the clarity of your inner vision." Ravi watched as the ripples gradually subsided, the moon's reflections slowly re-emerging, the fireflies returning to their luminous dance. He understood. His thoughts, like the stones, were creating turmoil within him, obscuring his true nature. He was unable to see himself clearly, his vision clouded by the constant barrage of negativity. Ravi sat by the pond, his gaze fixed on the gently rippling water. He watched as the ripples gradually subsided, the moon's reflections slowly re-emerging, the distorted image gradually returning to its pristine clarity. He watched the fireflies, their luminous dance now restored, flitting gracefully across the surface of the pond. He understood. Master Dhira's words resonated deeply within him. His thoughts, like the stones, were creating turmoil within him, obscuring his true nature. He was unable to see himself clearly, his vision clouded by the constant barrage of negativity. He was constantly reacting to his thoughts, feeding them with his attention, creating a perpetual cycle of disturbance. "How do I stop throwing stones, Master?" he asked, his voice filled with earnest longing. "How do I still the waters of my mind?" Master Dhira smiled gently, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. "Through mindfulness, Ravi," he replied. "When a negative thought arises, do not react. Do not try to suppress it. Do not try to push it away. Simply observe it. Acknowledge its presence like a curious observer noting the passing of a cloud. Then gently return your attention to the present moment." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "Focus on your breath, on the sensations of your body, on the sounds of the forest. Feel the cool breeze on your skin, the soft earth beneath your feet. Ground yourself in the present moment, in the reality of the here and now." Ravi felt a sense of calm wash over him as he focused on his breath, inhaling deeply, then slowly exhaling. He felt the cool night air on his skin, the soft earth beneath his feet, the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. He felt the rhythmic beating of his heart, the steady rise and fall of his chest. "The ripples will subside," Master Dhira continued, his voice a soothing balm. "As you anchor yourself in the present moment, the turbulence will gradually subside, and the true reflection of your being will emerge. You will see yourself clearly, without the distortions of negativity." Ravi closed his eyes, focusing on his breath, on the sensations of his body, on the sounds of the night. He felt a sense of peace descending upon him, a profound sense of stillness that had been absent from his life for so long. He realized that the key to finding peace was not to fight the waves, but to find stillness within the storm. Ravi diligently practiced mindfulness, striving to observe his thoughts without judgment, to let them pass without engaging with them. He would sit for long periods under the shade of the banyan tree, focusing on his breath, on the sensations of his body, on the sounds of the forest. He would observe the thoughts as they arose, acknowledging their presence without judgment, like a detached observer watching clouds drift across the sky. Yet the battle within his mind continued. The old patterns reasserted themselves, the negative thoughts returning with renewed vigor, their whispers more insidious than ever before. They were like persistent weeds, sprouting up again and again, despite his best efforts to eradicate them. At first, he attributed these setbacks to his own lack of willpower. He berated himself for his weakness, for his inability to control his mind. "I am failing," he would lament, feeling a wave of despair wash over him. "I am not strong enough. I am destined to be trapped in this cycle of negativity." The whispers, sensing his vulnerability, grew louder, more insistent. "You are weak," they hissed. "You are powerless. You will never overcome this." Frustration began to gnaw at him. He felt like a hamster on a wheel, running and running but never reaching his destination. He sought out Master Dhira, his voice filled with despair. "Master," he confessed, his voice trembling, "I am failing. The thoughts return stronger than before. I cannot seem to escape their grip. I am drowning, Master, drowning in a sea of negativity." He slumped down onto the soft earth, his shoulders slumped, his gaze fixed on the ground. He felt a deep sense of hopelessness, a feeling that he was trapped in a cycle of suffering, a prisoner of his own mind. Master Dhira, sensing his distress, smiled gently. He placed a comforting hand on Ravi's shoulder, a gesture that conveyed a profound sense of understanding and compassion. "You are not failing, Ravi," he reassured him, his voice a soothing balm against the storm of despair that raged within the young man. "The mind is a vast wilderness, a forest teeming with life. Wild animals, both benevolent and fearsome, roam freely within it. You cannot eradicate them, but you can learn to coexist with them, to tame their wildness." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. Ravi, looking up at the monk, saw a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. Master Dhira then presented Ravi with a small, flickering candle, its flame dancing in the gathering dusk. "This flame," Master Dhira explained, "represents your awareness, your consciousness. When a negative thought arises, a fearsome beast in the wilderness of your mind, shine your light upon it. Observe it closely, without fear. You will discover that it is not as powerful as it seems, merely a shadow in the flickering light." Ravi, intrigued by this novel approach, took the candle from Master Dhira. Its warmth, a small beacon of light in the gathering gloom, offered a sense of comfort. He held it gently, its flame flickering in the gentle breeze. He began to practice, his mind alert, his senses heightened. When a negative thought arose, a venomous whisper of self-doubt, he imagined holding the candle, its light illuminating the darkness within his mind. He focused his attention on the thought, observing it closely, without judgment. To his astonishment, the thought, once a monstrous beast, began to shrink. Its power diminished. It was no longer a terrifying predator, but rather a fleeting shadow, a fleeting illusion. He saw it for what it truly was, a figment of his own imagination, a creation of his own mind. The experience was both unsettling and liberating. Unsettling because it revealed the extent to which he had allowed his thoughts to control him. Liberating because it showed him that he had the power to change his relationship with his thoughts, to observe them without fear, to shine his light on the darkness and reclaim his inner peace. Months turned into seasons, and Ravi's transformation was undeniable. The once familiar tempest within his mind had subsided, replaced by a newfound tranquility. His work as a craftsman flourished, his hands guided by a newfound clarity, his creations imbued with a newfound grace. The pieces he crafted were no longer simply functional objects. They were extensions of his soul, reflections of the inner peace he had cultivated. He found joy in the simple pleasures of life, in the warmth of the sun on his skin, the rustling of leaves in the breeze, the laughter of children playing in the village square. He savored the taste of freshly baked bread, the aroma of wood smoke on a crisp autumn evening, the quiet companionship of a starlit sky. However, the journey was not without its challenges. Just as the seasons changed, so too did the internal landscape of his mind. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the village, Ravi was working late in his workshop. The air was thick with the scent of freshly cut wood, the rhythmic thud of his chisel against the wood, a soothing counterpoint to the growing darkness. But as the shadows deepened, so too did the shadows within his mind. The familiar whispers returned, more insidious than ever. They were like a venomous snake, slithering from the depths of his subconscious, their venom seeping into his thoughts. "Your work is mediocre," they hissed, their voices cold and dismissive. "Insignificant. You will never be truly great. You are a mere shadow of your father, a pale imitation of his talent." The whispers gnawed at his confidence, eroding his sense of self-worth. The rhythmic thud of his chisel, once a source of comfort, now felt clumsy, awkward. He felt a familiar tightness in his chest, his breath quickening, his hands trembling as he struggled to maintain his grip on the chisel. The wood, once a source of inspiration, now felt heavy and lifeless in his hands. Fear, cold and insidious, began to creep into his mind. He feared failure, feared disappointment, feared being judged inadequate. The whispers, feeding on his fear, grew louder, more insistent, threatening to consume him. He felt a familiar sense of panic rising within him, a desperate struggle to regain control, to silence the insidious whispers. Panic seized him. He had thought he had conquered the negative thoughts, that he had tamed the wild beasts within his mind. He had believed he had finally found a way to silence their insidious whispers, to live a life free from their torment. But they had returned, stronger, more determined than before, like a venomous snake that had shed its skin, emerging more potent than ever. Despair threatened to engulf him. He felt a familiar sense of drowning, his mind a tempestuous sea, the negative thoughts crashing against the shores of his consciousness, threatening to pull him under. He dropped the chisel, the sharp point sinking into the soft earth with a sickening thud. That night, sleep eluded him. He tossed and turned, the whispers echoing in the darkness, a constant tormenting refrain. "You are weak," they hissed, "insignificant, a failure." They replayed his past failures, magnified his perceived inadequacies, and painted a bleak picture of a future filled with despair and loneliness. He felt a cold dread creeping into his bones, a fear that he would never escape the clutches of these insidious thoughts. The next morning, he sought out Master Dhira, his face pale and drawn, his eyes filled with a deep sense of despair. He found Master Dhira meditating beneath the banyan tree, his eyes closed, his breath slow and even. "Master," he confessed, his voice trembling, "I have failed. The thoughts have returned, stronger than before. I am drowning, Master, drowning in a sea of negativity." He slumped down onto the soft earth, his shoulders slumped, his gaze fixed on the ground. He felt a deep sense of hopelessness, a feeling that he was trapped in a cycle of suffering, a prisoner of his own mind. Master Dhira opened his eyes, his gaze gentle and understanding. He sensed the depth of Ravi's despair, the crushing weight of his self-doubt. "Ravi," he said, his voice calm and reassuring, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You are not drowning. You are simply caught in a current, a temporary setback on your journey." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. Remember the parable of the two wolves. The cruel wolf, like a cunning predator, will always seek an opportunity to regain its dominance. It will lie dormant, waiting for an opportunity to strike, to exploit your vulnerabilities. He paused, his gaze penetrating. "But you have the power, Ravi," he said, his voice firm yet gentle. "You have the power to choose which wolf to feed. You have learned to recognize the whispers, to observe them without judgment. Now, You must learn to redirect your attention, to focus on the positive, to nourish the kind wolf with unwavering determination. He saw the confusion in Ravi's eyes. "But Master," Ravi protested, "how can I stop these thoughts? They seem to have a will of their own." Master Dhira smiled gently. "You cannot control the thoughts themselves, Ravi, but you can control your response to them. You can choose how you engage with them, how you allow them to affect you." He then introduced Ravi to a new practice, the art of letting go. "Imagine," he instructed, "that your thoughts are like leaves carried by a river. You cannot stop the river from flowing, nor can you prevent the leaves from being carried along. But you can choose not to cling to them. You can watch them float by, acknowledging their presence without attachment." He explained that attachment to thoughts, whether positive or negative, was the root of suffering. By clinging to negative thoughts, he said, we give them power. We allow them to fester within us, to poison our minds and our hearts. We become entangled in their grip, unable to break free. He continued, "Similarly, by clinging to positive thoughts, we create expectations and attachments that inevitably lead to disappointment. We become attached to the idea of happiness, of success, of perfection. When these expectations are not met, we experience suffering." Ravi listened intently, his mind grappling with these profound concepts. He realized that he had been clinging to both positive and negative thoughts, allowing them to dictate his emotions, his moods, his very sense of self. He had been caught in a constant cycle of grasping and resisting, a prisoner of his own thoughts. True freedom, Master Dhira explained, his voice a low, resonant hum, lies in detachment, in observing the flow of thoughts without judgment, without grasping, without resisting, in witnessing the ever-changing nature of the mind, without getting caught in its currents. You are like a leaf on the surface of a river, carried along by the current, but not swept away by it. Ravi pondered this. Detachment. It sounded paradoxical. How could he detach from his own thoughts, from his own mind? Wasn't he supposed to be in control, to master his thoughts? Master Dhira smiled gently. "Control is an illusion, Ravi. The mind is not something to be controlled, but rather to be observed. Like the sky, it is vast and ever-changing. You cannot control the clouds, but you can observe their ever-shifting forms, their ever-changing patterns." Ravi began to practice this new approach. He observed his thoughts as they arose, acknowledging their presence without judgment, like a detached observer watching a play unfold on a stage. "I am noticing a thought of inadequacy," he would say to himself, acknowledging the thought without engaging with it. "I am noticing a feeling of anxiety." He would then gently redirect his attention to the present moment, to the sensations of his breath, the sounds of the forest, the warmth of the sun on his skin. As he deepened his practice of mindfulness, Ravi began to experience a profound shift in his awareness. He started to notice the beauty in the ordinary, the magic in the mundane, the intricate patterns on the wings of a butterfly, the delicate dance of sunlight through the leaves, the warmth of his mother's smile. These simple joys, once overlooked, now filled him with a sense of wonder and gratitude. He began to spend more time in nature, walking through the forest, observing the intricate tapestry of life unfolding around him. He would sit by the river, listening to the gentle murmur of the water, feeling the cool breeze on his face, allowing the worries of the world to fade away. He would watch the sunlight filter through the leaves, the shadows dancing on the forest floor, and feel a sense of peace and tranquility wash over him. He found himself appreciating the small moments, the fleeting instances of beauty that had previously escaped his notice. The dewdrop clinging to a spider's web, the intricate patterns of moss on a weathered rock, the playful dance of a squirrel chasing a butterfly. These were the wonders that now filled his days, bringing him a sense of joy and contentment that he had never experienced before. He also began to cultivate a deeper connection with his community. He volunteered his time to help the elderly, sharing his skills as a craftsman to repair their homes, mend broken fences, and build sturdy walking sticks. He found joy in helping others, in using his skills to alleviate their burdens, to make their lives a little easier. He listened patiently to their stories, offered words of comfort and encouragement, and shared the wisdom he had gained from Master Dhira, offering a listening ear to those in need. He found that by serving others, he was not only helping them, but also healing himself. The act of giving, of selfless service, brought him a profound sense of fulfillment, a sense of purpose that transcended his own personal struggles. As Ravi's inner peace deepened, so too did his influence within the village. People were drawn to his calm demeanor, his gentle presence, his newfound wisdom. His laughter, once a rare occurrence, now filled the village square with warmth and joy. He became a source of comfort and guidance, offering solace to those who were struggling, sharing the wisdom he had gained from Master Dhira. However, this newfound attention brought with it a new set of challenges. People began to make demands on his time, seeking his advice, his support, his approval. He found himself juggling his own needs with the needs of others, feeling overwhelmed and drained. The constant demands, the expectations placed upon him, began to weigh heavily on his shoulders. He found himself neglecting his own practice, the time for solitude and reflection dwindling, the precious moments of peace and tranquility slipping away. His mind, once a calm and tranquil lake, began to churn with anxieties. He worried about disappointing others, about not being able to meet their expectations. "I am not meant for this," he thought, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of expectations. "I am just a simple craftsman, not a sage or a guru." He felt himself slipping back into old patterns, the negative thoughts returning, whispering doubts and anxieties into his mind. "You are not worthy," they hissed. "You are not capable. You are drowning under the weight of their expectations." He began to doubt his own abilities, his own wisdom. He questioned the validity of his own experiences, feeling like an imposter, a fraud. The very thing that had brought him so much joy and fulfillment, his connection to the community, now threatened to consume him, to drag him back into the depths of despair. He sought out Master Dhira once again, his face pale and drawn, his eyes filled with a deep sense of despair. He found the monk meditating beneath the shade of the ancient banyan tree, his eyes closed, his breath slow and even. Ravi approached him hesitantly, unsure of how to express his distress. He sat down beside the monk, his shoulders slumped, the weight of his anxieties heavy upon him. "Master," he confessed, his voice trembling, "I have failed. I have allowed the whispers to return. I am drowning, Master, drowning in a sea of negativity." He poured out his heart to the monk, describing the challenges he was facing, the constant demands on his time, the weight of expectations, the return of the insidious whispers of self-doubt. Master Dhira listened patiently, his eyes filled with understanding and compassion. He did not interrupt, allowing Ravi to unburden himself, to release the pent-up emotions that had been weighing him down. When Ravi finally finished, a long silence followed, broken only by the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. Then Master Dhira spoke, his voice calm and reassuring. "Ravi," he said, "it is natural to feel overwhelmed when you are of service to others. You are a compassionate soul, eager to help, to alleviate suffering. But remember, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You must take care of yourself first, nourish your own well-being, before you can truly be of service to others. Ravi nodded slowly, beginning to understand. He had been so focused on helping others that he had neglected his own needs, his own well-being. He had allowed himself to be drained, his inner reserves depleted. Master Dhira then taught Ravi the art of saying no. "It is not selfish to set boundaries," he explained, his voice gentle yet firm. "It is essential for your own well-being. You cannot help others if you are depleted, if you are constantly giving without receiving. You must learn to honor your own needs, to prioritize your own well-being without guilt or shame." Ravi felt a sense of relief wash over him. He had been so afraid of appearing selfish, of disappointing others, that he had neglected his own needs. Master Dhira's words gave him permission to prioritize his own well-being, to set boundaries, to say no without guilt. Ravi learned to set limits, to say no to requests that drained his energy, to prioritize his own needs. He began to schedule time for himself, for solitude, for reflection, for reconnecting with the stillness within. He would spend mornings in his workshop, his hands moving with a newfound grace, his mind clear and focused. He would spend afternoons walking through the forest, observing the intricate dance of life unfolding around him, or sitting by the river, listening to the gentle murmur of the water, allowing the worries of the world to fade away. He rediscovered the joy of his craft, of creating, of expressing himself through his art. As Ravi regained his balance, he discovered a new way of being, a way of giving that was not about self-sacrifice, but about sharing from a place of abundance. He learned that true service was not about depleting oneself, about pouring from an empty cup, but about offering a helping hand while maintaining one's own inner peace. It was about giving freely without expectation, from a place of overflow, from a wellspring of inner joy and contentment. He began to see that true service was not about self-sacrifice, but about sharing from a place of abundance. It was about giving freely without expectation, from a wellspring of inner joy and contentment. He realized that when he was truly centered, when his own inner well was full, he could offer genuine support to others, his actions flowing from a place of compassion and love, not from a place of obligation or duty. He began to see that giving and receiving were not separate entities, but two sides of the same coin. When he gave freely, without expectation, he received in unexpected ways, in the gratitude of others, in the deepening of his own compassion, in the joy of witnessing the transformation in others. He realized that true service was a reciprocal act, a dance of giving and receiving, a harmonious interplay of compassion and gratitude. He began to see that giving and receiving were not separate entities, but two sides of the same coin. When he gave freely, without expectation, he received in unexpected ways, in the gratitude of others, in the deepening of his own compassion, in the joy of witnessing the transformation in others. He noticed that when he helped an elderly woman mend her roof, the gratitude in her eyes, the warmth of her smile, filled him with a sense of profound joy. He realized that in helping her, he had also helped himself, that the act of giving had brought him a sense of peace and fulfillment that went beyond the act itself. He saw that when he listened patiently to a troubled villager, offering a shoulder to lean on, a compassionate ear to listen, he was not only offering comfort, but also receiving a deeper understanding of the human condition, a deeper connection to the shared experience of joy and sorrow. He realized that in witnessing the transformation in others, in seeing the light return to their eyes, the hope rekindled in their hearts, he was witnessing his own transformation, a gradual unfolding of his own capacity for love, for compassion, for empathy. He began to understand that true service was not about self-sacrifice, but about a harmonious exchange, a dance of giving and receiving. It was about recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings, the realization that in helping others, he was ultimately helping himself, that in nurturing the well-being of others, he was nurturing his own. Years passed. Ravi continued to live in Oakhaven, his life a testament to the transformative power of mindfulness. The village, once a backdrop to his inner turmoil, now witnessed the blossoming of his spirit. He became a respected elder, a wise counselor, a source of inspiration for the younger generation. He shared his wisdom with others, not as a teacher or a guru, but as a fellow traveler on the path of self-discovery. He would sit with young people, troubled by anxieties and doubts, and share his own journey, his own struggles with negativity. He would listen patiently, offer words of encouragement, and guide them towards the tools that had helped him find peace, mindfulness, gratitude, and the art of letting go. He would often gather the children of the village under the shade of the ancient banyan tree, sharing stories and parables, teaching them about the importance of kindness, compassion, and respect for all living beings. He would encourage them to observe the wonders of nature, to cultivate gratitude for the simple joys of life, to find peace within themselves. He became a living embodiment of the wisdom he had learned from Master Dhira, a beacon of hope for those who were struggling, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, even in the darkest corners of the mind, there is always the possibility of transformation, the possibility of finding peace and joy within oneself. His life became a testament to the enduring power of mindfulness, a reminder that true freedom lies not in the absence of struggle, but in the ability to navigate the challenges of life with grace and equanimity, to find peace within the storm, to cultivate joy in the midst of suffering. He taught them about the dance of thoughts, the feeding of the wolves, the stillness of the pond, the taming of the wild beasts. He shared the wisdom of Master Dhira with them, not as dogma to be blindly followed, but as seeds of understanding to be nurtured within their own hearts. He encouraged them to cultivate gratitude, to practice mindfulness, to live in the present moment. He guided them to find joy in the simple things, the warmth of the sun, the rustling of leaves, the laughter of friends. He taught them to observe the world around them with wonder and curiosity, to notice the intricate details, the fleeting moments of beauty that often go unnoticed. He emphasized the importance of self-care, of setting boundaries, of giving and receiving with an open heart. He taught them that true strength lies not in pushing themselves to the brink of exhaustion, but in finding a balance between giving and receiving, between action and rest, between service to others and care for oneself. He encouraged them to cultivate compassion, not just for others, but also for themselves. He taught them to be kind to their minds, to acknowledge their struggles without judgment, to offer themselves the same compassion and understanding that they would offer to a dear friend. And so the wisdom of Master Dhira, passed down through the generations, continued to ripple through the village of Oakhaven, a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, even in the darkest corners of the mind, there is always the possibility of transformation, the possibility of finding peace and joy within oneself. And so, the wisdom of Master Dhira, passed down through the generations, continued to ripple through the village of Oakhaven, a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, even in the darkest corners of the mind, there is always the possibility of transformation, the possibility of finding peace. Ravi's life became a testament to the enduring power of mindfulness, a living embodiment of the teachings of Master Dhira. The village, once a backdrop to his inner turmoil, now witnessed the blossoming of his spirit, a gentle radiance that illuminated the lives of those around him. Children, drawn to his warmth and kindness, would often gather around him, their eyes wide with wonder as he shared stories of the forest, of the stars, of the interconnectedness of all living things. He taught them about the dance of thoughts, the feeding of the wolves, the stillness of the pond, the taming of the wild beasts, not as abstract concepts but as living realities, as experiences to be explored and understood. He encouraged them to cultivate gratitude, to practice mindfulness, to live in the present moment. He taught them to find joy in the simple things, the warmth of the sun on their skin, the rustling of leaves in the breeze, the laughter of friends. He encouraged them to observe the world around them with wonder and curiosity, to notice the intricate details, the fleeting moments of beauty that often go unnoticed. He emphasized the importance of self-care, of setting boundaries, of giving and receiving with an open heart. He taught them that true strength lies not in pushing themselves to the brink of exhaustion, but in finding a balance between action and rest, between service to others and care for oneself. He encouraged them to cultivate compassion, not just for others, but also for themselves, to acknowledge their struggles without judgment, to offer themselves the same kindness and understanding that they would offer to a dear friend. And so, the wisdom of Master Dhira, passed down through the generations, continued to ripple through the village of Oakhaven, a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, even in the darkest corners of the mind, there is always the possibility of transformation, the possibility of finding peace and joy within oneself, a reminder that the seeds of peace and compassion, once planted, have the power to grow and flourish, transforming not only individuals, but also the very fabric of the community.